Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Lori Tucker. Glad you're with us. Longtime Knox County Judge Andrew Jackson VI is retiring before the end of his term, creating a window for some movement at the county leadership level. This week, local leaders selected Assistant District Attorney Andrea Klein to fill his shoes, at least until through the August election. And between now and then, some people have their eyes on the role themselves, and this includes Knox County Commissioner Rhonda Lee, who joins us now. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, tell us about your ambitions for being judge.
Well, Lori, I am been an attorney for over 13 years, and I am primarily a defense attorney. And my role is very important per our Constitution, that everybody gets treated fairly and everybody has representation. And so what I've been doing for the last 13 years, we're going on 13 years, is representing people that are criminally accused. And that is a very hard job because sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. But it's not the court system to place judgment on anybody until they've been proven guilty of a crime. So I represent them, and a lot of my clients that I represent are indigent and they can't afford counsel. So I think my role has been very important to make sure everybody gets a fair trial or gets treated fairly. And in general sessions, which this is the initial part. It's the first court that a lot of times first people walk into. It's the first time they've been in a courtroom, and it could be very terrifying. And it's very important that everybody's treated respectfully and everybody is treated fairly, and that is per our Constitution. No matter what side you're on, our Constitution is what drives that. And we all know that we have a lot of people with mental health illness and drug addiction. So we have to kind of figure out what's going on and guide them through this process, because if you're criminally accused, you're somebody's mom, you're somebody's daughter, you're somebody's maybe sister, brother, but everybody is in this experience and they need to be treated fairly. And so I've been doing that, and that's primarily what I do as a criminal defense attorney. I also do other cases besides that, which would play into being a general sessions judge.
Let's talk more about that.
Okay.
How what you bring to the table makes you feel you'd be best for this position.
I have, I'm a non-traditional student, let's say, as far as the law. I went back, and I hope that it's an inspiration to every young girl or every young boy it's never too late. Mm-hmm. And I went back, prior to going to law school, I was in real estate for over 16 years. And I helped people in buying and selling a house, and a lot of people their first time, and it can be a very scary thing, and helping them apply for mortgages. But prior to that, my first job in high school was at McDonald's. So I have been working with people my whole life.
Sounds like that's a recurring theme.
Yes. Yes.
Beyond everything you're
Yes.
trying to do. And you're willing to step away from county commission to pursue this dream.
Yes. I ran in 2022 for Knox County Commissioner, and largely that was due to we are just in the middle of COVID, and there were a lot of governmental shutdowns. It hurt a lot of people in our county. There was the mask mandates, and I had a granddaughter that was 5 years old having to wear a mask for 12 hours a day. And the reason that I went back to law school, and prompted before all through going to law school for 9 years to get my undergrad in law school, and a survivor of cancer in the middle of that, and I drove to Nashville to get my law degree for 4 years, 3 times a week. So I was determined, and what drove me was I wanted to make a difference in people's life. And the doors just opened, and I kind of felt that's where the Lord led me to what I'm doing now. And then as I ran for commissioner, it was to be a voice for those who didn't have a voice, and we didn't have a voice during COVID. So while I've been on commission, I've been very, very watching how we spend taxpayer monies, watching how we use every inch of our county space, and are we overbuilding, where are we building, making sure that law enforcement has what they need. So I've been a very conservative commissioner, and I'm very watchful of our taxpayer dollars. And this came open, and so then I thought, as what I'm doing, that I could make a bigger difference countywide.
Well, you weren't appointed as interim judge. I have
Right.
to ask you about that. What is your initial reaction to that? disappointed?
Of course, I was
Yeah.
disappointed. You know, I didn't, I mean, you know, I think it was a political move. You know, I kind of feel like, I don't know whether the commissioners felt like they shouldn't appoint a commissioner, that maybe they thought it would look wrong. It was, you know, and then the judge writing a letter of recommendation kind of was a sticking point. But I think that this General Sessions is the people's court, and I'm counting on the people, and that's who I want to represent and make sure everybody's treated fairly. And I don't think this position is something that 8 people should decide. I'm going to leave that up to the people of Knox County. They've elected me to county commission, and I have a lot of people behind me, and I believe that I can win.
Let's say, just devil's advocate, what if you don't win? Would you stay in local politics? Do you have a plan B?
I don't necessarily plan to stay in politics. I will be stepping down from my seat to run for this position, but I will remain an attorney. That is what my passion is, to make a difference in people's lives. So I will remain an attorney whether or not I win this election, and I won't say never, because you never know what opportunities would come my way, but I don't have any, right now today, have any other aspirations other than staying in the criminal justice system and being an attorney and hopefully the judge.
There's something else I need to ask you about, and this is something you did recently as a county commissioner, pushing to honor Charlie Kirk. Were you surprised by some of the pushback you received over that?
I was very surprised. I totally support Charlie Kirk because he stood for nonviolence, especially in the political arena. That's our First Amendment freedom of speech, that there should be no violence. And I was surprised about that, but I will tell you, I'm very honored to bring that resolution. I support what Charlie stood for on the no political violence and free speech. And I think that's our First Amendment. That is part of our freedoms. And I think, yeah, I was surprised about that. But I will say my surprise, but the overwhelming support I got from it, from the people of Knox County.
Well, it went ahead, it passed.
Yes, it did.
But then commission came back and adopted a resolution to just keep it local or
Yes.
to people. Do you agree with that?
I do not agree with that, because Charlie Kirk affected this community dramatically. They had over 8,000 people when Charlie came in March that came to a UT rally. Those are people who are right here in Knoxville. At his death, there was over 5,000 that came to memorial service. And the people, I will say, even in my own family, I have a grandson that's at UT, and he came to me, and he's, you know, he's just of the age now to vote. But he came to me, and he didn't know that I was doing the Charlie Kirk resolution, and he came to me and he said, Mimi, I joined Turning Point USA. Charlie Kirk has made such a difference in my life. And all throughout the county, just people, the floods of young people, not just young people, but adults. I think it moved this county, it moved people. It moved to people all over this nation and the world.
Still, we're far from being a unified country.
Yes.
What do you say to people about that? What are your thoughts on trying to get everybody together despite their party affiliation?
I think that's probably something we've been trying to do since we formed this country. There was a disagreement between our founding fathers, but we left to come to this country to have the freedom of worship, freedom of speech, and that everybody could be treated fairly. Especially, that's when we formed our Constitution, that everybody should have representation, and we should have representation against our government being able to come in and accuse us and, you know, take us to prison, that everybody's treated fairly. So that's an ongoing thing. I don't think there's going to be any magical trick to that. I think we just got to keep looking for that and striving for that. And it's important what kind of leaders we have. And that's why it's so important that people vote and they care about local matters. Local matters. I would like to see, it's sad when things like this, and sometimes you think, are we going backwards or are we going forward? But that is such a time as this. And, you know, all we can do is just try to make things better.
All right. I think we'll end it on that. Rhonda Lee, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And everyone, stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll bring in our panel of pundits. Coming up next, we are back in 90 seconds. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. You know, a moment ago, we heard from Knox County Commissioner Rhonda Lee, who's interested in becoming a judge. Well, now let's bring in our panel of pundits to talk about the upcoming election. Joining us today, Craig Griffith, Michael Covington, and Shelley Breeding in for Courtney Piper. Thanks, everyone, for coming in. Shelley, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
What is your take on this, initially, on this race?
Well, on the commission vote, listening to the WATE story and reading the other news accounts of the vote, it seemed to me that Ms. Klein was the most qualified individual out of that group. Her years of experience, cases prosecuted and things like that, I think set her apart from the other candidates. And the letter from the retiring judge a recommendation to the county commission was probably too much for her to overcome. And I wish Ms. Klein all the luck in the world in her appointment now. But now it moves to a different phase. That was like a job interview. On paper, she looked a lot better. Now you're moving to an election, and where ideology can have more of an influence. And mainly because Rhonda Lee has run a successful campaign for commission. She knows what it's like to get elected. She knows how to get elected. So I think it'll be a very interesting race in terms of, the power of the incumbency that Ms. Klein will have versus Ms. Rhonda Lee's ability to get out the vote. So we'll have to see how that goes. And, like I said, I hope she does a great job in her appointment to the judgeship.
All right, what about you, Shelley? I mean, we've got two people on different sides of the courtroom.
They're very different sides of the courtroom. Andrea Klein's been in the DA's office for 25 years. She does a great job as a prosecutor there. Obviously, the commission felt that way. Andy Jackson felt that way with recommending her. This is a general sessions judge position. There are 5 general sessions courts in Knox County, and 4 of those are criminal. One is civil, and they hear landlord-tenant or small claims under $25,000, but the other 4 are all criminal. So Andrea Klein's going to have a lot of experience in 80% of that court as a prosecutor. Now, to me, it's going to be interesting if any other lawyers jump in, because I think the legal bar usually will be behind one candidate. In this case, I expect Andrea Klein to get a lot of support from the bar because she's been there for so long. She's very well respected. But if someone else enters the race from the, I haven't heard that Kevin Teeters, the other person who applied to the commission, is going to run an election and run a race. But if he doesn't join in and no one else joins in, I expect a lot of the bar to support Andrea Klein, and then that's going to make a difference if no one else is there and it's Rhonda Lee. But like Craig said, Rhonda Lee's got a lot of name recognition being on county commission. It's going to be an interesting race.
It really will be.
Sure.
Michael, what's your take here?
Election day is a different ball game. If you get into an elected position by appointment, election day is a different experience for you. And Attorney Klein will get that experience in May. She'll find out if she's got the traction she'll need with the electorate. Rhonda Lee does have a lot of name recognition. Here locally, she's been in the news a little bit. And Knox County has a very astute electorate. They'll figure it out. In that length of time, the electorate will figure out the best judge for Knox County. And I'm confident in that.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Let me just say, coming as a lawyer in judicial races, especially judicial races, I don't think the public always understands judicial candidates' qualifications and experience. And I think name recognition for a judicial race is more important than other races, because the lawyers, the court system, most people are not down there every day. You're not dealing with Andrea Klein as a DUI prosecutor. Very few in the community are. Whereas more people know Rhonda Lee. I just don't think that they learn enough about the judicial candidates. And from the past, that has been very clear to me. It's been very clear in the past when someone runs as a Democrat versus Republican. We saw this in the election. We had a chancellor who has been on the bench for a long time, and then an unknown came in and beat him. And none of the bar really supported the unknown person, but
it's so
it didn't
interesting
matter.
Because you look at someone like Andrea Klein who has a credibility. And you think of a judgeship, and people say, oh, I can see that happening. I can see her up there. Then you have Rhonda Lee, who grassroots, cancer survivor, has a story to tell and has been in the trenches. So I guess it does depend on who reaches whom and who understands, if voters really understand what this is.
I guess it brings up the question of what's the best way to appoint our judges? Is electing them the best way, or is appointing them the best way? Some judges in the state of Tennessee are appointed by the governor. The appeals court, I believe, is appointed by the governor, and there's no elections there. But then they have to run for retention. So, and I'm not sure which is the best way. I'm not sure that, as both Michael and Shelley have said, there's deficits to the way of electing people. Do we get the most qualified person, but yet do we want the citizens of Knox County to have a role in what this court does?
Right, and we've been talking about Andrea Klein. I want to give her a chance to be heard as well. We spoke with her on Wednesday. Here's what she had to say when asked about being appointed in this interim role.
I've been very active in the community and feel like I have a good handle on the needs of Knoxvillians. My goal as a General Sessions Court judge is to listen to the parties that are in front of me and be fair and make timely decisions.
All right, we're going to let her have the last word on this. We need to get to some other topics here, switching gears to talk about Tennessee SNAP benefits. Beginning next year, as we've reported, Tennesseans who are on this will not be able to use those benefits to buy things like soft drinks or some prepared foods, and that's because the U.S. Department of Agriculture approved a state waiver. Your thoughts on this? Should people on SNAP be able to buy what they want when it comes to food?
Well, that's interesting, because when I went to work in a hospital system, and they still had, soft drinks machines, I raised a red flag with that. And one of the things that I was told was, well, that there's a demand for that. So, and people want to drink that. They have the right to drink that. But here we go in terms of, back in 2010, Michelle Obama, as we all remember, instituted this program to have much healthier food in school lunches. And vegetables, fruits, and things like that. And that was sorely criticized by Republicans back then. They actually even went to the extreme of, well, let's weigh the food waste coming out of the schools now to see whether it's not being eaten, the vegetables and fruit, and whether we're throwing it away. So I'm glad that we've had this change to a healthier food. And I'm not so sure that SNAP benefits like this should cover foods that are detrimental to your health. Seeing as how we have an obesity epidemic, we have a diabetes epidemic. So I think that there's logic behind it. But it's interesting how we've turned around now and found these issues that restrict your dietary choices now being approved.
Michael, what do you think about this?
Dietary restrictions are good. If you're using your resources, you can eat anything you like. You don't have to care for your health if you're taking care of it yourself. If the public is taking care of your health, the public should be able to say what you should be able to easily eat and purchase with assistance and what you can't. I'm wondering how it gets implemented. If you walk up to a cashier with a Snapple, when you use your card, will it automatically bounce that item from what you're trying to purchase? How does that work? Does the barcode recognize the high fructose corn syrup volume in a beverage? And I'm wondering how that will be regulated. If it is effective, it will cut down on some of the dialysis problems that exist. And it may take a while for that to really be a benefit. But if you're keeping people off of dialysis by doing this, it's worthwhile.
Shelley, what about you?
This is such a difficult issue because you're interfering with someone choosing what they want to put in their body. And we all make bad choices of what we eat. I wish I ate more fruits and vegetables, but on the go, it's sometimes easier to grab something that's not so healthy and to not give people who are on SNAP benefits the same choice in their day-to-day life and to decide what's best for them. I don't approve of that. I don't think we should be regulating what they choose daily. Not buying cigarettes, not buying alcohol, those things are that's one category, no problem with that. But when you're talking about how much sugar is okay, how much is not okay, this soda is okay, this soda is not, this drink is okay, this drink is not, I think we're micromanaging what people are doing with these benefits when the point of the benefit is to provide them nutrition and food, whatever they may choose for that to be.
You know, affordability has also become obviously a hot button issue, and I want to talk about a new Vanderbilt poll that finds 87% of respondents called their daily cost of living either very or somewhat expensive. That's the first part of this. Let's take a look at what you guys think about this. They're also worried about overpaying for emergencies. They can't afford things like medical care, or maybe their car needs to be fixed, and also worried over retirement and education savings for their kids. So a lot of concern here. What do you have to say about what people are thinking according to this poll?
Well, it's not surprising.
No.
One of the main factors that Donald Trump had going in his favor was the cost of living rising under the Biden administration, and he claimed to be able to bring that down on the first day, and he hasn't. So on this issue, I mean, he's underperformed. There's no question about it, and people are feeling this at the cash registers in their home when they're trying to pay their bills. The electrical rates are going up, insurance rates are going up, daycare is skyrocketing if you have a family that you need daycare for. And I'm not so sure that where you can make a significant dent in this to lower the costs. And I don't think the costs are actually ever go down. There was a level before COVID, there was a level after COVID, and that level after COVID is never going to go down.
Are we ever going to get to a point where a family of four with maybe one person working to, go on vacation, have a car, own a home? That's not possible today. Will we ever reach that?
Those days are gone, Lori.
They are gone.
When a family of four can exist on a single income, those days may be gone forever. Prices are not going to start going down so that people can afford things that they need to live. People will have to make more money. And when you start talking about affordability in housing, in food, what is affordable in terms of housing and food? We can't expect builders to build cheaper properties so that people can afford them. Jobs will have to pay more money to rise with the tide. And the bottom line is, if we can provide more jobs that pay the amount of money that would allow a single household to exist with a single earning, that job's got to be a really good paying job. And it's got to be a very stable job for a long period of time.
And that's not happening across the board. All right, stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. The debate over school vouchers is certainly not over yet. Now, a Maryville father of a high school freshman with Down syndrome is suing the state, claiming Tennessee wanted him to waive his son's rights to enroll in the voucher program. So, okay, let's bring our panel of pundits back to weigh in on this. Shelley, let's start with you here.
So this lawsuit alleges that funding of the vouchers is unconstitutional. So everything that the General Assembly does, the governor does, the judicial branch, it's all laid out in the Tennessee Constitution. And in Article 11, which is miscellaneous, Section 12 talks about the education clause, and it says that the General Assembly shall maintain a free public education system. It does not give the General Assembly the authority to fund private schools, and that's what this does. And so I think this lawsuit has some merit to it. I'm very curious to see how it comes out, because this is taking taxpayer dollars, putting it toward private schools, and I don't see under the Constitution how that's allowed in the framework of our Constitution in Tennessee.
What about you?
Well, I'll trust Shelley's interpretation of that, being the lawyer on. But what I will say is that in this era, Governor Lee and Cameron Sexton, head of the House, are going to push for an expansion of this. And we've already been of the voucher program, and we've already been told by the Comptroller's office, Jason Mumpower's office, that the budget is going to be the tightest in Governor Lee's time in the office. So I don't see how they're going to come up with more money to expand the voucher programs, and maybe it'll be declared illegal.
Well, it's going to cost $1 billion in 5 years under the plan, and that's a lot of taxpayer dollars.
And is this sustainable?
I think it is. If it starts to work the way the governor intended it to, I think it will be sustainable. The voucher program, and I supported it throughout the process, the governor's trying to allow individuals to be able to make a choice with assistance. And I would imagine a lot of people are trying to get their kids out of public schools because of the strings attached to public education. If you've got to turn a classroom upside down to accommodate a single child, is it worth it? Or is the education of 30 kids compromised by a single child based on the Constitution of
All right.
Tennessee?
Thanks everyone for being with us. Wonderful discussion today. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you back here next time.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.